In today's video I'll show you how to make homemade bread. It's very easy, and once you make one you will be making it all the time. The smell of the bread, homemade bread, it's basically smells in the whole house, looks incredible, tastes incredible, freshly made with some nice butter. It's just match in heaven. You have to try this recipe. It's so easy. You can make it, mix it ingredients at 10 o'clock at night and bake bread at 9 in the morning. Okay, those are all ingredients you will need to bake a bread, and we'll need 25 grams of fresh yeast. We'll need 500 milliliters of warm water, so basically just warm it up on the gas. Make sure it's not burning hot, but it's a bit warmer. We're using warmer water to activate our yeast, so it's really important. We need 1 tablespoon of granulated sugar, normal granulated sugar, and then we'll need some flour. Flour is very important in here, and the better quality of bread flour, it has to be a bread flour to start with, and better quality bread flour will means basically better bake. So you want to get a really good one. If you live in UK like I do, I highly recommend this one. It's very strong Canadian white bread flour. How to recognize very good bread flour is proteins in your flour. In this one you have, if you check, always check protein, you got 14.9 grams of protein in this one, so it's quite high, very high I would say, and this is why it's very good. So highly recommended this one. If not, check protein in your flour. The usual ones you will find are 10, 11, but you want at least 11 and up. That's my advice. Then we'll need just table salt. Normal table salt, we'll need about 3 teaspoons of table salt, and we'll need 2 tablespoons of oil. Vegetable oil is completely fine, so 2 tablespoons. If you don't have it, just use virgin olive oil. This is the one I will be using today for this recipe, so you can use that as well. So those are all ingredients we need. Let's get started. We're gonna start with measuring 25 grams of fresh yeast. One more thing about the yeast as well, very important, lots of people don't know this, but you want to buy one, especially when you're buying yeast, fresh one, you want as long a date to use it by as possible. So we are in February and this is valid till March. You want the longest date, use date by, which means that your yeast gonna be fresh. And fresher yeast is much better for your, it's gonna basically grow better, and you're gonna have really good quality bake. If your yeast is coming out of date, it's not gonna be good. I can tell you now, it might not even be right consistency, and you will see that those yeast not gonna activate as good as it should be. So it's important. Okay, 26. To this we're gonna add some water. Remember, you want to mix the yeast properly with the water before adding the rest of the ingredients. To this we're gonna add 1 tablespoon of sugar. We adding sugar. Basically yeast gonna be activated with a warm water, and sugar is like a food for your yeast. It's gonna activate it. Now time for a flour. I could sift the flour, but can't be bothered, so it's up to you. So we need about 651 grams. Gonna go straight in. To this we're gonna add 3 teaspoons of table salt. When we're gonna add salt, we want to throw it in a few different spaces and maybe mix up flour with the salt. before we're gonna add it and mix everything all together. Salt is a really important ingredient in your bread. Okay, now we have to add 2 tablespoons of vegetable olive oil. I've got in here extra virgin olive oil, but that's fine. I'll use that one. 2 tablespoons. Okay, the last thing what we need to do is just mix it with a wooden spoon. We're gonna mix everything very well, and it's gonna be a wet dough. That's okay. Okay, now as you can see in here, the bread mixture is wet. What we need to do is cover it with a cling film for 2 reasons and throw it in the fridge. Tomorrow morning we're going to bake the bread, so we're going to leave it overnight. While we're using a cling film, first of all, we don't want other smell to come through our bread and our bread smell like other stuff we've got in the fridge. Secondly, we need to cover with a cling film because we want it to yeast not to dry out. If it's going to dry out, it's not going to work, it's not going to be activated. So it's very, very important. You want to use a cling film to keep moisture in for our yeast to work. Okay, this is our dough after the fridge. Expanded crazy. I should have left it in a bigger dish. Anyway, this is after whole night. As you can see in here, the yeast is working. This is the sign of it. Looks really, really good and puffy. We don't want to destroy it, so we're gonna get rid of the foil and we're gonna fold it, the sides of it to the middle, all the sides to the middle, and then we're gonna take it out on a chopping board which had a bit of flour, and we're gonna form the bread. Then we're gonna leave it in a warm place because it has to have a room temperature straight from the fridge, so we want to have a room temperature. We'll put it in a warm place by the radiator for about 30 minutes and then we can bake it. As you can see in here, we're just stretching the dough. As you can see in here, it's got really good texture. So we don't want to destroy that fluffiness. Just gonna do it a few times, fold it basically from each side. And then we're gonna leave it and form our bread. So we're getting to the exciting part. Okay, we've got some flour here. Now we're going to take out the dough. We're going to use exactly the same flour which we used to make a bread, and then we're just going to form the bread. is that part on the back, on the bottom, you want it to make sure it's all closed up, put it that way, all closed up this. Yeah. Okay, our bread is formed, as you can see in here. It doesn't have to be perfect shape, that's not what we want to achieve here. More, you're just gonna make it form it more naturally by hands, then it will have better natural shape. That's the whole idea. It will look better, I promise. So what we want to do is move it from here to the paper you're gonna be baking on. So that's it, just baking paper. We're gonna move it in here, and then I'm gonna put it by the radiator in a warm place for 30 minutes. Oven we have to preheat, and we're going to take our bread out. Now with a sharp knife we need to cut the bread, like this. Okay, now we're gonna transfer our bread to the baking tray we're gonna be baking it in. We need to preheat the oven to 210 fan oven, but I will leave in the first comment exact recipe with measurements and temperature for the oven, because everyone might have different oven. Okay, now we need to put some water on the side of our bread, so it will be much better and crispier. It's important to dust your bread with some flour, good amount. Use one of those, so it will be your flour will go nicely, equally on all over the bread. Otherwise, it might be like lumps of flour you don't want. I highly recommend a rice flour on top. I don't know, I really like it, and I baked it lots of times before, and it's perfect. Or you can use the same flour used for a bread. Up to you. Very important, we're gonna bake our bread for 25 minutes in a 230 temperature or 210 fan, but it has to be under the cover. So you're gonna use exactly the same roasting tin or baking tray on top, and this is how we're gonna be baking for the first 25 minutes. Then after 25 minutes we're gonna take that off. We're gonna bake it for another 10 minutes, but in a temperature of 180 fan, so lower temperature.